What's up, y'all? This is Koski of Fun Day back at it once again, up here dropping this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And first, I'd like to give credit for my ancestors for helping, continue on to pushing things that I'm doing. And I'd like to thank you, the subscriber, for subscribing to the channel, watching and learning things, and the watcher. Now, this comes from the Smithsonian. First humans entered the Americas along the coast, not through the ice. Evidence amounts against the traditional story of early human migration through the ice corridor. This came out on August 11, 2016. The traditional story of human migration in the Americas goes like this. A group of Stone Age people moved across the area from modern-day Siberia to Alaska when the receding ocean's waters created a land bridge between the two continents across the Bering Straits. Once across, the giant longitude and the Coronian ice sheets, which blocked the southern Alaska and the Yukon Territory in western Canada, halted the migrants' progress. About 13,000 years ago, the ice sheets began retreating and opened a 900-mile ice-free corridor following the Canadian Rockies. This many researchers believe is how the Clovis culture moved south and colonized other parts of the Americas. But new evidence had made the timeline hazy over the last decade. Research shows that humans were living south of the ice sheets before the ice-free corridor opened up. A settlement in Monteverde, Chile, shows people already down there in South America 15,000 years ago. And a more recent discovery indicates humans hunted mammoth in Florida 14,500 years ago. Now, a new study by the international team of researchers may finally rip the ice corridor hypothesis out the textbooks once and for all. Using sediment cores and DNA analysis, scientists reconstructed the corridor's environment. This research showed that there weren't enough resources in the past for the early human migrants to be successfully make the crossing. So there wasn't enough food. Of course, there's ice. You're surrounded by ice. Of course, there's not going to be enough food. The bottom line was that even though the physical corridors opened by 13,000 years ago, it was 700 years before it was possible to use. Project leader Eskin Workay, an evolutionary geneticist from the University of Copenhagen and Cambridge University, says in a press release. That means that the first people entering what is now the U.S., Central, and South America must have taken a different route. Whether you believe these people are Clovis or something else, they simply could not have come through the ice corridor as long claimed. So the Bering Straits is that theory is dead. You know what I'm saying? As you see, there's an ice corridor here, and then it melted, the so-called land bridge, and they finally popped through the Americas. That's a dead theory. Nicholas Wade of the New York Times reports that the researchers look at an area of ice-free corridor that was once a part of a lake dubbed the Glacier Lake Peaks that would have blocked the path. The migrants would not be able to cross a 6,000 square mile body of water until it began to recede, an event that would show up in the lake bed sediments and the remaining of the plants and animals. Today, the area is covered by Lake Charlie in British Columbia and Lake Spring in Alberta. The team visited the lake during this winter and drilled into the holes of the lake bed to gather sediment cores. Then applied a technique called shotgun sequencing to the materials they brought up, which allowed them to date plants, animals belonging to the colonizing lake bed. Instead of looking for specific pieces of DNA from individual species, we basically sequence everything in there from bacteria to animals. So what Sylvester says in the release, it's amazing what you can get out of this. We found evidence for fish, eagles, mammals, and plants. Wade reported that the scraps of the ancient DNA shows how lake peaks receded, slowly opening the ice corridor. Grasses, hedges, birches, and willows began colonizing the edges of the shrinking lake. And as it dried, they found evidence of bison, voles, jackrabbits moving in a staggering around 1,250,000 years ago. 1,500 years ago, That means it is unlikely that the area produced enough resources like food and wood for long migrations before that date. Instead, early humans probably followed the Pacific Ocean around the ice sheets of the colonizing Americas. The study echoes another paper that came out in June that the study researchers looked into the DNA of the northern and the southern population of bisons, concluded that they were not intermingled until 13,000 years ago, meaning that the corridor was blocked till then. Now, to complete the story of human migration in the Americas, researchers need to focus on evidence along the coast. That's tricky since erosions, tide, and now the effects of climate change make coastal archaeology sites very rare. So there you have it. So if then they come across to 20,000 years ago, some say 20,000, whoop-de-whoop, it's sites older than that. Let's take a note and see how old some of these sites are. Now here's one right here we did earlier in another video. The early evidence of human presence in America is proved by the wall engravings on Pedra Furada site in northeastern Brazil. The human presence at this site is dated to 50 to 65,000 years. So what is 20,000 years across the Bering Straits with people already over here chilling doing their thing? The Pedra Furada site is located on the eastern tip of Brazil and is clearly oriented towards Africa. So far, Western scientists have been arguing that those first inhabitants had come from Australia or Asia, not from Africa. Anyways, the inhabitants of Pedra Furada could only be black because the white race and other race did not appear only 20,000 years ago, from the adaptation of the black human in the icy European climate of the Americas. The Americas were initially populated when there was only blacks on the planet. The man of Pedra Furada can hardly be blacks from Asia, Russia, because at the time, the glaciarization of the Northern Hemisphere, which we just talked about, from 120,000 to 10,000, called the Wisconsin in the Americas, made any move of this magnitude impossible, which is also just backed up by the stuff I just read by the Smithsonian. So we got to kill that part. We got to kill that noise right there on that one, baby. Here's another site in Brazil. More recently, the site of Toca de Terapila, also known as the Serra Capivara National Park, was shown to have signs of human presence 22,000 years ago. So that's before the ice bridge, before it opened up and all that stuff like that. People still trying to say this ice bridge stuff, but it's been over and done with, baby. So we know they didn't come from Asia. Asia is knocked out the box. If you talking about the first people that busted in America. They have not come from there. You know what I'm saying? It's done. It's over and done with. That theory is shot to hell. But there's people still trying to bring it back. But it's shot. You gotta think about it. It's ice. How can you grow food? Ain't nothing moving in the ice and the snow like that. Ain't no buffalo. None of those things. We just gotta use common sense on that one. So that one's over and done with. Anyway, this is Iskosi of Funny saying peace. Iron your brain with knowledge. Use that stuff and apply that knowledge and use that every day. Y'all have a wonderful day and subscribe to the channel. Peace.